Hello, friends. This is the story of Hugh Glass, a fearless hunter who was betrayed by his own companions and left to die in the freezing wilderness. Wounded, starving, and struggling to survive, Glass fought against all odds. Not only did he stay alive, but he also went after his enemies to avenge his son's death. The story begins in the year 1823 in the state of Missouri, USA. Deep in a dense forest, we see a group of 45 men hunting wild animals and selling their fur to make a living. One day, a Native American tribe called Arikara suddenly attacks them, killing many of their men. Only 10 of them manage to escape by jumping into a boat and sailing away. But they know that this entire area belongs to the Arikara tribe, and the danger isn't over yet. Their leader, Captain Henry, asked Glass what they should do. Glass suggests that they should leave the boat and continue on foot, but their companion Fitz disagrees. He argues that if they go through the forest, the tribe will find them easily, and it will take weeks to reach home. But Captain Henry trusts Glass because he knows the area well. The group decides to abandon the boat and let it drift away so that the Arikara warriors think they have escaped further down the river. Before leaving, they hide their collected fur under some rocks, hoping to return and collect it later. Then they begin their long journey through the dangerous freezing forest. The cold weather is unbearable, making survival even harder. As night falls, they stop at a spot to rest. The next morning, they realize that abandoning the boat was the right decision. The Arikara warriors find the boat and understand that the men have gone into the forest. One of the tribesmen notices footprints leading north, so the warriors start following them. Meanwhile, Glass and his companions continue their journey, walking for hours before stopping to rest at night. At dawn, Glass is the first to wake up. He picks up his rifle and walks into the forest when he suddenly sees bear cubs nearby. Before he can react, their mother bear appears and attacks him ferociously. Glass's rifle falls and the bear mauls him brutally. Now severely injured, Glass can barely move. The bear steps away for a moment, giving Glass just enough time to grab his rifle and aim. As soon as the bear charges at him again, Glass pulls the trigger and shoots. However, the gunshot had no effect, and the bear attacked Glass once again. This time, Glass pulled out a knife and started stabbing the bear's neck. Both of them rolled down a slope, and the bear fell right on top of Glass. The bear was dead, but Glass was barely alive. He had deep wounds all over his body, and his throat was torn open. Glass was groaning in excruciating pain when his companions arrived. They pushed the bear's body off him and carried him back with them. Captain Henry stitched up his wounds, but his injuries were severe. His throat was cut open, his stomach had deep wounds, and his leg was broken. Meanwhile, the Arikara tribe sold the stolen furs to the French in exchange for guns and horses. Back in the wilderness, Glass's companions built a stretcher out of wood, placed him on it, and continued their journey. But soon they reached a steep climb, making it nearly impossible to carry Glass any further. At that moment, Captain Henry gave an order. Cover Glass's face. He pointed his gun at Glass, ready to end his misery, because he believed Glass wouldn't survive. Just as he was about to pull the trigger, Glass's son, Hawk, cried out in protest, "Please, don't do this." Seeing Hawk's pain, Captain Henry hesitated. Instead, he made an announcement. Whoever stays behind to take care of Glass will receive $70 from the Rocky Mountain Fur Company. Glass saved all of us, so he deserves a natural death and a proper burial. Hawk, Jim, and Fitz agreed to stay with Glass, but Fitz wasn't satisfied with the payment. $70 is too little, he argued. Captain Henry sighed and said, "Fine, $100. Hawk and Jim replied, "You can even keep our share." With that, the three men stayed with Glass, while the rest of the group moved on toward their camp. Glass's condition was critical. Fitz was sure he would die soon. One day, while Hawk and Jim were away, Fitz leaned over Glass and whispered, "Why don't you just die? If the Arikara find us, we'll all be killed because of you. You can save your son and us by sacrificing yourself." Then he continued, "I'm going to cover your nose and mouth now. Blink your eyes to give me permission." But Glass didn't blink. Fitz smirked. "You don't need to blink." Then he pressed his hands over Glass's nose and mouth, trying to suffocate him. Glass struggled for his life, gasping for air. Just when it seemed like he was about to die, Hawk arrived. Furious, he smashed Fitz's head with his rifle, throwing him off Glass. Fitz tried to explain himself, saying it was for everyone's safety, but Hawk didn't listen. He pointed his gun at Fitz. In a split second, Fitz lunged at Hawk, snatched his gun, and stabbed him with a knife. Glass watched helplessly, unable to scream or move, as his son was murdered before his eyes. Fitz then dragged Hawk's body and buried it in a deep pit, hiding the evidence of his crime. A few moments later, Jim arrives, but Glass is unable to tell him that Fitz has killed his son because he can't speak. The next morning, Fitz whispers in Jim's ear that about 20 native warriors are nearby and heading toward them. Jim panics and asks where Hawk is. Fitz coldly replies, "If he's alive, he'll find us." Jim insists that Glass is still breathing, and they had promised the captain that they would stay until he dies and bury him properly. Fitz, however, drags Glass to a pit, throws him inside, and starts covering him with dirt. Glass groans in pain, his entire body covered in deep wounds. Jim, shocked, protests. "What are you doing?" Fitz replies, "He's going to die today or tomorrow anyway. We promised to bury him, And that's exactly what I'm doing. Fitz throws a little more dirt over Glass and leaves. Jim doesn't want to abandon Glass like this, but he is also afraid for his own life. Before leaving, he places his water bottle on Glass's chest and walks away, unaware that there are no native warriors nearby. Fitz had lied. Now Glass is alone in the freezing wilderness. He lies in the pit for hours, his body barely moving. After gathering his strength, he slowly begins crawling out of the shallow grave. Dragging himself through the dirt, he painfully makes his way toward his son's body. He lays his head on Hawk's chest, closing his eyes as tears silently roll down his face. He stays there for hours, unable to do anything but grieve. Hunger and pain eventually force him to move. He crawls to a dead animal carcass nearby and scrapes off whatever dried flesh he can find, chewing on it to survive. Starving and exhausted, he then drags himself toward the edge of a hill, where he sees a river flowing below. With immense effort, he reaches the riverbank and gulps down water, but the liquid seeps out of his wounded throat. He coughs, barely able to swallow. Desperate, he takes some gunpowder from his pouch, sprinkles it over his open wound, and strikes a spark. The wound ignites, sending searing pain through his body. He screams but holds still as the burning powder cauterizes the wound, stopping the bleeding. The unbearable pain causes him to faint. For days, Glass remains by the river, surviving on water, grass, and whatever little he can find. Slowly, his wounds begin to heal, and he learns to move using a wooden stick as support. But the freezing cold and hunger still torment him. One night, while he is sleeping, the crackling sound of fire startles him awake. He crawls toward the noise and sees a man roasting a large animal over the fire. The man, startled, immediately draws his bow and aims an arrow at Glass. But Glass raises his hands and lies on the ground, signaling that he only needs food. He gestures and says, "I am injured. A bear did this to me. My people killed my son and left me here to die." The man gives Glass some food and says, "My family was also killed by another tribe." Now the man tells Glass, "You can travel with me. I am heading north." Both of them sit on the man's horse and continue their journey. On the other side, Jim starts doubting Fitz's words. He points a gun at Fitz and asks, "Tell me the truth. Did you really see any natives there?" Fitz replies, "No, I lied. Glass was going to die anyway, and I saved your life. You should be grateful to me." He convinces Jim with his words, and they continue their journey. Ahead, they find a destroyed village where they come across two horses. Riding those horses, they finally reach the captain's camp. Here, Fitz tells Jim, the captain must never know the truth, otherwise he will have us hanged. Now both of them go to the captain, and, as promised, the captain gives them $100 each. But Jim, without taking his money, walks out. Fitz tells the captain, Jim is in shock from what happened on the way. That's why he is reacting like this. On the other side, Glass continues his journey with the man through the snow. But soon, a snowstorm arrives. Glass is already injured, his wounds are worsening, and he faints. The man removes Glass's clothes and places him inside a shelter made of wood. He applies herbs to Glass's wounds and lights a fire around him so that he doesn't die from the cold. The night passes, and in the morning, when Glass wakes up, he doesn't see the man anywhere. Looking for him, he moves ahead and finds that the man has been killed and hanged from a tree. This was the work of the Frenchman. Glass soon reaches the place where they are, and he sees that their horse is tied there. He tries to free it when his eyes fall on a Frenchman who is assaulting a native girl. That girl is the daughter of the Arikara chief, the one their tribe is searching for. Glass saves the girl from the Frenchman, and then taking his horse, he escapes from there. The next morning, when Glass wakes up, he sees that the Arikara tribe has reached near him. He quickly mounts his horse and starts running away. The tribe members chase after him. Glass shoots some native warriors while trying to escape, but while running, his horse falls, and Glass, along with it, plunges down the mountain. Due to the fall, his horse dies, but Glass is still alive. The bear skin he was using to keep warm has fallen somewhere. To survive the night, he cuts open the horse's belly, removes all its flesh, and hides inside it because he knows he will freeze to death otherwise. The next morning, Glass wakes up and continues his journey. On the other side, a French survivor arrives at the camp and asks the captain for help. In exchange for food, he gives them some money and a bottle. Seeing this, Jim asks, "Where did you get this bottle?" The man replies, "It fell from someone about 30 miles from here, so I picked it up." This was the same bottle Jim had left on Glass before leaving. Jim says, Glass must be dead by now, but maybe his son Hawk is still alive. Jim does not know that Fitz killed Hawk, so the captain, along with Jim and some men, sets out to find Hawk. Meanwhile, Fitz realizes that Glass is still alive. As the captain and his men are searching for Hawk, Glass appears before them. The captain is shocked to see Glass alive because Jim and Fitz had told him that Glass was dead. The captain orders, "Arrest Jim." Then he himself returns to the camp to confront Fitz. But when he reaches the camp, Fitz is nowhere to be found. The captain asks, "Where is Fitz?" A man tells him that Fitz only said he was going to Texas to buy a house. The captain then goes to his room and discovers that Fitz has stolen all the money from his safe. Enraged, the captain decides to go after Fitz and bring him back because he is guilty of killing Glass's son. Glass tells him, "I will go with you." Now the two set out to find Fitz. They follow his horse's tracks deep into the forest. At one point, the tracks disappear, so Glass and the captain split up to search in different directions. Suddenly, Fitz emerges from behind a large rock and aims his rifle at the captain. The captain says, "You are accused of murder and theft. Come back to the camp with me." But Fitz refuses and shoots the captain, killing him. Hearing the gunshot, Glass rushes to the spot. He finds the captain's lifeless body on the ground, but Fitz has disappeared. Glass breaks a wooden stick and places it against the captain's back to keep his posture straight. Then he puts the captain's body on the front horse and himself lies down like a corpse on the second horse. Fitz sees them and assumes that the captain's dead body is on the back horse. He shoots at the man in the front, causing him to fall off his horse. Fitz believes he has killed Glass as well. He slowly approaches the body, and when he turns it over, he realizes it is the captain. Just then, Glass rises from the back horse and shoots at Fitz. One bullet hits Fitz in the shoulder, but he manages to escape. Glass chases after him. They engage in a brutal fight, both getting severely injured. Finally, Glass stabs Fitz in the legs and back with a knife, pinning him down. At this moment, the Arikara tribe appears on the other side of the river. Glass is about to kill Fitz when he remembers the words of the man who saved his life. Only God has the right to take revenge. So instead of killing Fitz, Glass lets him float away in the river. Fitz drifts to the other side, where the Arikara chief catches him and kills him. The tribe then crosses the river, but spares Glass because the girl he saved from the Frenchman was the chief's daughter. Now the tribe moves on. Glass, though gravely injured, has finally avenged his son. As he stands there, he sees a vision of his wife's spirit smiling at him. And with that, this story comes to an end. We hope you enjoyed this recap. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel.